Well, the thing about this mess is, and I bring it up all the time, certainly when I'm talking to Dr. Drew, who still lives in California. It's always, anytime I talk to anyone with a couple of brain cells rubbed together, it's like they always go, well, we got to bottom out, and we haven't quite bottomed out yet, but we'll bottom out. And then when we bottom out, then we'll change. And I go, can't we see ourselves bottoming out? Like, why do we always have to completely bottom out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's basically like saying, I got a 15-year-old daughter, and I had to remove all the nail polish remover from her room because she was huffing it. And you go, you want to get her some help? I got to wait till she ODs. Like, I'll wait till she flatlines. And you go,
right.
Yeah, how about getting her some counseling now? She's drinking nail polish remover. Like, yeah, but she hasn't gone into cardiac arrest. It's like, yeah, okay. So California is bottoming out, but we've not utterly bottomed out. And so we have to wait until we physically make contact with the floor of the basement, and then we'll go, I think we got to get some new thoughts in here.
I'm Dave Rubin, and as you guys know, I am off the grid for August in an undisclosed location, but we went ahead and pre-taped some incredible, fabulous, wonderful, groundbreaking interviews for you in July. And joining me today is the host of the Adam Carolla Show and the author of many books. I believe this is his 6th, but his newest book right here in my hand. Everything Reminds Me of Something, Advice, Answers, but No Apologies. Adam Carolla, welcome back to the Rubin Report.
Always good to see you, Dave.
Carolla, I have to have a little mea culpa up top here. I'm off the grid right now, and as I'm interviewing you just a few days before the end of July, I have not read the book yet because I'm going to read it in August. But is it fair to say this is your best work ever?
No, but it's up there. And, you have to understand, my best work ever is pretty damn funny. This is pretty damn funny, too. It's really hard to kind of rank them. People like In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks, and they like not Taco Bell material. But, it's hard for me to do it. But if you go on Amazon, it had a 4.8. It toggles between like a 4.7 star and a 4.8 star. My other books are 4.5, 4.6, so it's, it arguably is ranked a little higher review wise, but it's up there. Everything's above a 4.5.
I think what you're really trying to say is that your best work does involve a trampoline. Is that what you're really saying?
And it's all in the rearview mirror.
Speaking of the rearview mirror, I don't see you in person anymore because I left California in the rearview mirror. You're still there. You're on the short list of sane people. How's it going over there? You all right? Do you need any money or help? What can I do for you?
It's not good, I know people always kind of talk about the grid and wildfires and, homelessness and drug trafficking and crime, street crime and everything. But I will sort of paint you a picture of how L.A. and California is doing. We tried to open a bridge in L.A. like 2 weeks ago, and it had to be closed down because too much street racing, too many people climbing it and threatening to jump off, too much graffiti. We literally attempted to open a bridge in the middle of L.A. to the tune of $600 million. And 2 weeks after it was open, it's now closed because the people could not figure out a way to walk across it without tagging it, threatening to jump off, or shivving somebody with a shank. That's
so you're saying I made the right decision. Is that what you're telling me?
I think so. I mean, you have bridges in Florida, and they're mostly open.
Seemed fine to me. From what I can tell, you're going to get a gator under them every now and again, but they're functioning, and you just go to the other side. And it's humid there, too. It's okay.
We're talking about putting speed bumps in this bridge and putting a medium in the middle of it because people can't stop from doing donuts in the middle of the bridge.
I feel like the nonsense of LA and California must be particularly hard for a guy like you because when I think of you first, you're very functional. You like things that work. You're a contractor. You like things that make sense. And yet you live in a place where nothing makes sense. Have you thought about that spiritually?
Yeah, if you're wired the way I'm wired and you're very mechanical and pragmatic, it does make no sense to, you turn on the TV and the Los Angeles Commissioners Board or the LA Council Committee or whatever is 7 insane women in their mid-60s wearing masks on Zoom calls, talking about, remasking the kids before we open the schools and comparing wearing a mask to wearing shoes. You don't think wearing shoes is restrictive? It's more restrictive than wearing a mask. Like just insane middle-aged cows setting policy. So yes, it is. For a guy like me, I would like somebody with some experience in the private sector making normal decisions for the citizens.
It's like being in a city run by the ladies of The View. I really don't know how you do it anymore, honestly. That's what you're up against.
It's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. It's just an insane cadre of yentas who have feelings about wearing masks and have it's like Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, when she was up there like, I'm speaking as a mother. I have a bad feeling. No one gives a shit about your feelings, witch. Just make some policy, would you? I don't care that. Look out. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm a dad. And I got a bad feeling that the schools are going to be closed and that my son's going to have to wear a mask for no reason. So are we even now in the feelings department?
I feel like you just gave Ben Shapiro a great idea for his next book. No one gives a shit about your feelings, witch. That feels like you could co-write that with him, I think.
I'd love it.
So I believe, because I do my research, although I said I'm going to read this thing in August, I believe in chapter 4 you say you're going to stay till your kids are out of high school and then you're going to get the hell out. Is that really the plan?
Oh, yeah. You have to. You can't run a business or try to function in LA or California any other way. I mean, I guess you could work for the TSA, I imagine, and stay in California, but you can't practically do it if you're trying to run a business. So yes, I would have to leave.
Speaking of the craziness of the world, as we're recording this right now, it sounds like we're in a recession. As of this morning, on July 28th, we are in a recession, although they have thus changed the definition of recession in real time and edited it on Wikipedia. Things don't seem to be going very well.
Did they edit it on Wikipedia?
There's been 30, as of today, there's been 37 edits on the official recession page on Wikipedia. But you can see it all over on CNN. Everybody's editing. They're just, a recession isn't 2 consecutive quarters of GDP going down. Now there's other factors and the feelings thing and all that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I always think about Kamala Harris talking to Lester Holt about the border. And he's like, have you been to the border? And she's like, well, yeah, we've been to the border. You've been to the border? We have. And then he goes, but have you been to the border? And she's like, I haven't been to Europe. What are we talking about? The most interesting thing about that exchange is not her sort of lying. It's her, at the end, she goes, I don't know what you're asking. Like, you don't know what I'm asking. You're the border czar. Let's just say you're the queen of the Mardi Gras parade. And I said, have you been to Mardi Gras? Would you be confused and go, I don't know what you're asking? Or that's the craziest part about the sort of New World Order, which is like this weird semantic overload thing where we just get bogged down in what is a recession? What's a border? I don't know. It's all invisible. We can't define what's a woman. We can't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not definable. So how are we gonna? I mean, it's like you go in like when you're in the 6th grade and you go in and the teacher's like, "Did you bring your homework?" And you went, "What's homework?" It's the assignment that was assigned to you when you left on Friday. I don't know what that. Yes, I have seen homework. If that's what you're asking, it's just weird circle talk, and it's by the way, you dodged a bullet because you're gay. But when you argue with women, that's how you argue. You start to talk about things
terrible.
that you don't even know what you're talking about anymore. And that's kind of the New World Order. What is a recession? I don't know. Here's how I define it.
Are you surprised Are you surprised that all of this is so idiotic, that everyone involved with all of this at every level seems like a complete moron or in complete dereliction of their duty or an idiot or an incompetent or a psychopath? I mean, you feel free to use some other adjectives. Like just the whole thing, there's just nobody.
Well, look, as I've said many times, if you can argue the definition of what is a woman or the difference between a man and a woman, if that's open to debate, then going to the border or recession is certainly on the table. You know what I mean? Like if you really think about the ultimate black and white definition, man, woman, okay, that's out the window. So a recession, that's easy to argue away if you can argue away a woman. You know what I mean? And I sort of think a lot of that's the motivation for a lot of it, because they will argue away anything now because everything is on the table. Now, the question you're sort of asking is, well, you know, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whomever, I get it. That's their job. But, I mean, it's insane, but that's what they're doing. The question is more like, what are the news outlets doing? Aren't they worried about their credibility? Don't they sound insane? I mean, I get it. You're a cheerleader for a party. But at what, you're essentially saying, I'm a cheerleader in a football game and the other team just scored. And you go, no, they didn't. It's like, yes, they did. No, well, what is your definition of a touchdown then? It's like, CNN, you sound insane, and people stop listening. And why are you making this deal with the devil? Why are you cashing in every bit of goodwill you've earned over the last 50 years on stupid things? Just give it up. This or going like all in on January 6th. It's the worst, democracy hanging by a thread, the worst attack since Pearl Harbor. Like, your news outlet, or ivermectins for horses. Why are you giving it up? Why are you playing so fast and loose with your dignity? You're a news outlet. We don't listen anymore.
Do you think it's too late and we should just encourage their slow, or I guess at this point, their relatively quick death? It's been a slow death that I think is now escalating.
I don't know. Like, my feeling is if somebody popped on to MSNBC and said, look, we traditionally define a recession as 2 quarters of negative growth, and that's what we got, so that's what we're in, I'd go, all right, well, at least that guy sounds semi-sane.
Right. But there aren't too many of those guys over there. But, I've asked you this before, but I don't think we've done anything on camera since you brought me back from off the grid last September, so about 11 months ago. You're a Hollywood guy. You've had a lot of success in Hollywood. You still live in L.A. When you think about all of the people that you're talking about that are just sort of in on all of the lies, I mean, an awful lot of the Hollywood people, they're just kind of in the lie. Do you get invited to any parties anymore? When's the last time you've been out of the house?
Well, I'm out now, technically, but
not to your own building.
Since you left, I don't get invited to too many parties.
Is it really like that? Like,
there's an element. Yes, there's a strong element of not getting invited to things you used to get invited to, for sure. Yeah. Not with certain friends or older friends or guys I've known for a long time or, that sort of stuff. But yeah, sure. There's an element of that. That's what they do. They're, first off, they're cowards. Secondly, they're into McCarthyism big time, which is weird because they never shut up about McCarthyism, but they love to practice McCarthyism every chance they get. And then they complain more about McCarthyism. So yeah, that's what Hollywood does.
Tell me about the book here, because when I saw the cover here and I saw the title, Everything Reminds Me of Something, I thought, this is Carolla, because that's you, right? Like when you're doing your show, everything that you hear, you're interviewing somebody, you're doing the news, everything reminds you of something that happened way back when. That is the Adam Carolla.
Yeah, it's something I came out of my mouth like 5 years ago, and I went, yeah, that's true. Everything does remind me of something. And I thought it'd be a good title for a book. And the book is people asking questions versus me sitting down and posing my own questions, which is kind of what you do when you write a book. You go, well, here's what I want to talk about, and here's... And it's an interesting conceit because it's like authoring a book is sort of asking yourself a question like, what should we do about the homeless problem? Here's what we need to do about the homeless problem, but this is a little different, and that people were asking me questions and I had to form thoughts and opinions on questions that I wasn't asking myself. So I found myself going, yeah, why is that? And then I was kind of pushed outside of my box and had to figure out what is the answer to that question because they were not my own.
Yeah, what's like the most burning thing that you were asked that you really maybe hadn't thought through? You're a thinker. You're doing a daily podcast, man. You talk to people on the internet.
The one that pops into my head, and there were many, but the one I remember, and you also... people have to remember or consider, I write these books, I write them while I'm doing 10 other things, and then they come out, and then people go, what's your favorite chapter, whatever it is. I go, I can't remember anything. I was there, I did it, and now I'm gone, and I don't know. But somebody said, in a world that's very equitable now in 2022, where males and females sort of share a lot of the same duties, and there's more women in college these days and more women attorneys than male attorneys. Why is it when you see a motorcycle going down the road with a couple on it, the guy is still the guy with his hands on the handlebars and the woman is pulled in behind him with her hands on his waist? Why? And I was like, yeah.
I have some thoughts. I'll let you answer your own question.
No, I'm see, now this is what happened to me. I was like, yeah, I never thought of that, but it's true. I've not seen any women riding the bike with the guy in the back. But in a world where the guy stays home and takes care of the kids and the woman goes to work and, he's making dinner and everything, all the responsibilities are shared now. Why do we still have this in this one place? Also, it's like, see a lot of women driving with a guy in the passenger seat now. You didn't see that so much when I was growing up. So I'd be curious your take on that, and then I'll tell you what I said.
Well, first on the why the man is always driving when the woman's in the car. I never understood that growing up. It was like a running joke in my family because I knew my mom knew how to drive. She'd sometimes drive us to get ice cream or go play basketball. But somehow if my dad was in the car, it was as if my mom had no ability to drive whatsoever. Sometimes we'd be fighting in the back and my dad would turn to my mom, you want to drive and I'll deal with them? And my mom would freak out as if she has no idea where any of the shift and the wheel and the whole thing. On the first part was the why are men on the front of the bicycle and on the bike and the women on the back. I think it's actually because a lot of traditional gender role stuff does make sense and people actually, it's not even that they crave it, they sort of automate towards it either way. And it's not to say there aren't things that are good that can be a little bit different than that sort of ideal situation, but I think it's just how it is. It would be odd. It would be odd, but not impossible if you saw the chick holding the motorcycle and the guy holding her. It doesn't fully compute. It's not impossible. It just kind of is. Men are usually more protectors, hunter-gatherer, the whole thing.
But we have like admirals who are transgender now and stuff, I mean, like we're all, I get it. That's the way it was, but those rules don't apply to 2022. Everything has been flipped over and turned over and changed. I'll tell you the real answer.
Please.
The real answer is the couples that would be considered a progressive couple. The couple I spoke of, the couple where maybe the guy stays home and does the dishes and the woman goes to work and all that. They would never own a motorcycle.
Yeah.
They're scared. The motorcycles these are double masker couples we're talking about. This is wipe everything down with Purell. This is put a helmet on the kid when he goes outside. That's who they are. A motorcycle is far too dangerous for that couple. They would never own a motorcycle. The couples that do own the motorcycles who are willing to deal with the danger of a motorcycle are old school couples. So they have, and I bet their life reflects that. I bet in that couple, the guy goes to work and the woman stays home and raises the kids and what have you. So you only see traditional folks on the motorcycles because they would never have a motorcycle in a progressive relationship.
So basically, they've self-selected themselves in. Is it kind of fun for you in a way now, like when you're doing stand-up or you're doing your show or you're writing a book, that it's like you're mostly a libertarian, and at least in my eyes. I don't know if you officially call yourself anything, but like that this sort of like basically rough sanity is now starting to be funny. Like that's actually starting to work, while the woke stuff and all the crappy Netflix specials by these not really comedians. Nobody's watching any of them.
Yeah, it's now we've come to the point where you can kind of make fun of people who are insane. And somehow there's a little light at the end of the tunnel. We're in L.A. We're talking about bringing masks back, and there are people now who go, I'm not going along with this. This is nuts. They didn't say anything a year and a half ago, but they're starting to wake up a little bit. And so you can kind of do that on stage now too, whereas 2 years ago, I did anyway, but people are, freaked out about everything. You can slowly start to make fun of the insane, masked up, transgenderized world that we've created.
I'm suddenly, as you were saying that, I'm reminded of a clip. You had Gavin Newsom on your show, like a decade ago or something?
Yeah, a little less, but yeah.
You had Gavin Newsom on there, so maybe 8 years ago, something like that. And you smacked him around pretty good, which I have to tell you, as a guy that fled the state because of that guy, made me feel pretty good. Do you hold that one? Does that have a special place in your heart?
Yeah, it is. If people can see it on YouTube, if they like, I imagine. I think it's out there. He came in here. I didn't really have anything against him per se at the time. He agreed to come in and sit down and did kind of a long form interview with him. There's a couple of caveats. A, he came in. He would never come in to a place like this now or anything near anything like that, number one. Number two, it wasn't a quick hit on News 11. It was as long as we had. And so he couldn't escape. He couldn't, there was no segment, that ended in 3 minutes and he was going to take off with his security detail. He was just trapped in the studio with me. And I wasn't planning on going after him. I don't really work that way. My idea when I interview people is this, I want to interview people, but I will ask them questions. And he started off, so I don't think people really know how intellectually troubled he is or bankrupt or something. I don't really know whether to call him a liar or an imbecile or just a sellout or whatever it is. But I prefer soulless,
frankly. I just believe he has no human soul. That's just me.
There's something wrong with him. And what I mean is like Kamala Harris. There's something wrong with her, and that when Lester Holt is asking if you've been to the border, she doesn't know what he's saying. Like that there's a synapse problem. There's something wrong. Now, look, you can just lie and just go, yeah, I haven't been to the border yet, but I'm closely monitoring the border, and I'm planning on going later this week. Just lie. But to go, I don't know what you're asking, means something's wrong with you. And something's wrong with a lot of the Biden has something wrong with him, obviously, Kamala Harris. Newsom has something wrong with him. And so there's a couple of things. One is I said to him, look, traffic is horrible in this town. Can we work on traffic a little bit? And he said, yeah. First off, it's all kind of news to him. He's like, well, what do you want? What do you want me to do? It's this weird thing, where they don't. No, you don't sit in traffic. You're kind of unaware. And I said a few things. I said, in Idaho, there's signs by the side of the highway that says if it steers, it clears. And in L.A., I see people in the third lane on the 405 freeway, both people out of their car because they had a little bumper bender. The cars are fine. No airbags deployed. And they're like standing in the third lane exchanging information. And my thing is like, pull over, pull off to the shoulder. And it's like, we got into a car accident. I know the car's fine. Just pull it over and get your information. A, people get killed that way. It happens often. And B, you've stopped the whole freeway because you guys are having a conversation in the middle of the freeway and your car's run. I said, put it up on the freeway sign. Just if it steers, it clears. They have them in all the different states. And so the first thing he went, really? Get out of here, kind of thing. And I said, no, they have it. He's like, I never heard of that. So he never heard of that. And then he rebutted it with this. And this is what makes this is why something is wrong with Gavin Newsom. He said, I'll tell you, I saw something. He started chuckling. He goes, I saw something I liked. Saw a sign I liked. It said, you're not in traffic, you are traffic. And I kind of like that. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it certainly doesn't feel like a way to alleviate the problem of traffic. So it's an insane statement to say you're not, it's like, I'm an oncologist. You don't have cancer. You are cancer. All right. My work is done. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Then he said, I heard him in another interview when he went on to a friendly show. But the woman who was interviewing him, at least had enough dignity to say, hey, people are fleeing California. This was a recent interview. What are we going to do about that? I mean, you have thoughts about people just leaving California? And he said, my answer to that is, where else you going to go? And the host said,
I can think of at least one place.
Yeah. The host said, I don't know, Florida, Texas, Nashville, like just anywhere. And then he said, yeah, I know. I didn't say that. Jerry Brown used to say that. So he quoted a guy and then disavowed himself of whatever the quote was. Jerry Brown in 1974 would say, where else you going to go? And so Gavin Newsom decided to repeat that. And when the person said, yeah, but that doesn't make sense, he went, yeah, I know. Jerry Brown said that. Which means it means you're insane. It means you have a problem. It means you're not thinking correctly. And then he started up with me. I said, the homeless, this is 9 years ago. I said, the homeless problem is crazy people and junkies and both. That's who's homeless. And then he said, let me explain to you the real face of homelessness. He prefaced it by saying that was his main issue and that's what he cared about the most. And then he explained to me the real face of homelessness, the real picture of homelessness was a mother of three whose husband left and who had a minimum wage job and was forced out into the streets. And I said, that's not That's not who's living on the streets.
It's
so
a very
he
specific
announced
example.
his number one issue was homelessness. He said he was passionate about it, then went on to explain a scenario that doesn't exist. And now that was 9 years ago, and homelessness is tenfold worse. So that's who Gavin Newsom is. And I don't know. I'm always curious why the people around him go, don't say that. Or like, why are you, that's not the problem of homelessness is not mothers of three who are making minimum wage.
What do you make of the people that are bamboozled by him? And by the way, the only reason I'm even asking you about him, besides the fact that for some reason you're still there and I've fled, is that I'm pretty sure that, as you know, because I'm off the grid at the moment, I could come back and he could be vice president, because I think this whole thing is completely out of control. They're keeping Biden alive on God knows what. And, he visited the White House when Joe went off to Israel.
Vice president, interesting.
You figure out something to get Nancy out of the way, something like that.
You get Kamala and Gavin Newsom in the same room, and you're going to have a nothing circle talk of complete and utter insanity. We're literally going to have two people who make no sense and who don't track at all. What I make of it is L.A., California especially, and then people in general, they're very sort of in Hollywood. You go, now why did Hollywood? They loved Obama. They love Newsom. Like why? They're aesthetically oriented. And I don't mean it's all about like matinee idol good looks. They just kind of go, if they said, look, I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to take everyone in Hollywood and I'm going to show you a picture. Show you a picture of Gavin Newsom, and I'm going to show you a picture of Donald Trump. Who do you want as a pilot in your airplane? They'll go, oh, I want that guy with the jawline for sure. He's a much better pilot. He's got to be. Look at this guy. This guy's eating a cheeseburger. Look at this guy. That guy's my pilot. It's literally like they're casting a movie all the time. Like, George Clooney looks like he knows what he's doing, and they're so aesthetically oriented and sort of paper thin. And there's such this weird living life on kind of the veneer surface of life that they go, that guy, look at that guy. Yeah, look at Obama, that guy. And then you go, well, let's talk about policies. And I go, no. Let's not get mired in that. Look at that guy. I'd like to have a beer with that guy. That's basically what they do with Gavin Newsom. They're idiots. But that's how it works. That's literally why does Hollywood hated with a red hot burning fever. They hated Trump. A lot of that was just was an aesthetic and a style. They just were driven so nuts by his look and his mannerisms that they just didn't care about anything else. They just hated him. Where would that hatred, weird visceral hatred, come from? They're so shallow that they work basically on an aesthetic. They love AOC for that reason.
Right.
I was on Hannity a month ago, and I just went, if AOC was a middle-aged chubby chick from Minnesota, would anyone listen to a word she had to say? And then everyone turned on me, and they're like, how could you say that? It's like, what do you mean, how could I say it? Because it's patently true.
If she was Amy Klobuchar, everyone would think she'd be as popular as Amy Klobuchar.
That's right. It's exactly right.
What do we do to get out of this mess that we seem to be stuck in?
Well, the thing about this mess is, and I bring it up all the time, certainly when I'm talking to Dr. Drew, who still lives in California. It's always, anytime I talk to anyone with a couple of brain cells rubbed together, it's like they always go, well, we got to bottom out, and we haven't quite bottomed out yet, but we'll bottom out. And then when we bottom out, then we'll change. And I go, can't we see ourselves bottoming out? Like, why do we always have to completely bottom out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's basically like saying, I got a 15-year-old daughter, and I had to remove all the nail polish remover from her room because she was huffing it. And you go, you want to get her some help? I got to wait till she ODs. Like, I'll wait till she flatlines. And you go,
Right.
yeah, how about getting her some counseling now? She's drinking nail polish remover. Like, yeah, but she hasn't gone into cardiac arrest. It's like, yeah, oh, okay. So California is bottoming out, but we've not utterly bottomed out. And so we have to wait until we physically make contact with the floor of the basement, and then we'll go, I think we got to get some new thoughts in here.
Is the bizarre part of that, too, that there is no such thing as the floor there? Like, no one would ever agree, oh, now it can't get worse than this, because I was only there for 8 years, but it just got worse and worse. It was not terrible when I got there. Then, obviously, COVID escalated it. But it's like, you're right, everybody that I would see in LA, oh, well, it's got to get worse before it gets better. That's what they always say. It's got to get worse before it gets better to wake up people. I don't think people will ever agree on how worse it has to get.
No, you're right. It's basically you have an NFL coach. He's 3-13 every year. And then you go, shouldn't we get a new coach? And I go, wait till we go 1-15.
The problem is you're not drafting anybody to California to save the place. If you had a draft pick involved, maybe this thing makes sense. But there are no draft picks as far as I know. Have you lost? Are all your friends leaving?
A lot of them. Well, I would say probably more people who are more conservative are leaving, and the less conservative ones are kind of riding it out. And also, there's a version of living in California where you just make a ton of money and kind of hang out in Malibu, where you can sort of go, wherever that bridge is they built in Boyle Heights, I'm not going over that bridge. I'm going on the Malibu Pier. So there's definitely a lot of that.
You're having breakfast at Nobu, aren't you? You elitist.
Yes, that's right. We'll go to the Soho House afterward for lunch.
Adam, what's wrong with Joe Biden? I've been trying to figure it out. I think something's wrong with the guy. You kind of alluded to it. What's wrong with the man?
Well, I would say there's, if you're going to try to figure out what's wrong with Joe Biden, you have to kind of break it off into stages, kind of early, middle, and present day Joe Biden. The beginning part of Joe Biden was, and I don't think people really took a big enough accounting of this, but like when he was like, I was at the head of my law school class. I was the only student with a dual degree and a dual major and two whatever, and I did 15,000 on the SATs. All right, buddy, you want to do a push-up contest? And then later on, it was like, yeah, he was at the bottom of his class. He never got a degree, and he didn't take the SATs. Someone should have pumped the brakes right there and went, that's a sociopath. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
Now, look, I don't like to talk about myself, Dave, but.
No. Please, I'll grant you this one time.
I was, just this one moment, and then we can go back. Your listeners can enjoy you. I was first team all Central Valley at North Hollywood High in football. And every once in a while, somebody's talking and, I'm doing an interview or on some sports show or something. I go, Adam was an all-city football player. And I go, no, not all-city. I wasn't all-city. That's higher. I was all Valley, all Central Valley. So get it straight. Now, why? Well, the answer is I wasn't all-city. And I'm just not comfortable with being labeled all-city when I was all Valley. A lower degree. So there's something wrong with his character, number one, that he would just plagiarize and lie and lie and lie. Now, he's sort of sociopathic that way. Now, there's obviously some cognition issues that are going on now, which have just exacerbated what he was. Now, when people ask him, did you ever talk to your son about his life? Hey, bud, I never talked. Hey, Dutch. Hey, Duke. Hey, Bub. Hey, Mac. I didn't talk. I never said once. And it's like, he has no ability to go, well, look, first off, if your son owned a frozen yogurt place in Pasadena, you would talk to him about his business on Thanksgiving dinner, right? You'd go, son, how's the soft swirl going? And he'd go,
hey. Don't shit talk the pink berry in Pasadena, okay?
That's
the mango's pretty solid over there.
Too late. The point is I've never talked to my son ever about any of his. It's like, well, that makes you a horrible dad, doesn't it?
Right.
But he has this thing where now he's angered if anyone challenges him. He does not have, there's no gray area. You know, when somebody talks about, you just go back and look at all the clips, like during the debates with Trump. It's like, hey, your business dealings with China. My business, I never did any, I don't have anyone. It's him. It's Trump he did. It's like, your son's all over business dealings with China. Like, you know, you can say, hey, it's a nuanced subject. When you become a politician, you meet a lot of people. You don't know who you're taking a photo op with all the time. I'm not, I can't I don't look at my calendar down to the last second. So yeah, probably met a few guys from a few places and I get what it looks like, but I never profited off it or whatever. He's just like 100% never happened. Shut it down. No. He is really kind of sociopathic, and I don't think people really fully understand it. His tells are whenever he says true story, or whatever, he's always lying. Whenever he says the word truth, there's a lie there. But also telling those stories like where he's saying, when 1953, I'd be walking with my dad through the streets of Scranton and we'd see two fellas hugging and my dad would look at me and go, that's what love is, son. And I said, what, you're right. That never happened. That never happened. Right. And Kamala Harris was marching with Harriet Tubman and wanted freedom when she was 2. It's like, hey, why doesn't this bother people more? This kind of weird. And then what people do is they go, well, look at Trump. Yeah, Trump said there were 1 million people at the inauguration and there were 700,000 people at the inauguration. I get it. He's a boaster. He's an exaggerator. He's not inserting himself into like Zelig into pieces of history that like never happened or just lying about. I've 2 degrees. Like you don't have 1 degree. I was at the head of my law school class. You're at the bottom. You're in the bottom 10%. Like that's insane. And it's a tell. And most people don't take it as a tell, but they should.
You think he's going to make it all the way? I mean, you kind of hit on the mental stuff. Something ain't right.
Look, I don't know. Maybe you and I were early money on this, but a year and a half ago, they're like, you think he's running for? I said, he's not running for a second term. They were like, why not? You don't think he wants to be president? I was like, he's not going to be here. He's not going to be able to physically. I was on Bill Maher's show and he's like, is he going to run? And, of course he's going to run. And I said, he's going to run I said, he can barely walk.
Yeah.
Forget about running for president. No, I said early, I don't know if he's making it out of the first term.
Yeah, I think I said on Inauguration Day, I think I said I'll retire. I'll end my show if he makes it through the whole first term. I think I'm looking pretty good at the moment. But let me,
look,
you mentioned.
If they want to prop him up and just sort of, if they want to do what they want to do, if the news outlets and the mainstream media and everyone wants to just kind of circle the wagons and prop him up, I suppose they could ride it out if they really want to go down that route, that hole. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, you mentioned Maher, and I talk about Maher a lot on this show. So whatever parties you're still invited to, I'm going to get you disinvited to all of them right now. Because I talk about Maher a lot, like sort of as he's the prototypical sort of, I'm not a crazy woke lefty. I'm good on free speech. I'm against CRT. I'm against the gender stuff. I finally came out against lockdowns. I'm sane on most of this stuff. The conservatives always applaud him. Then he calls them racist. They get upset for a minute. Then he says something sane. They applaud again. What do you think is going on there? And do you think there's a way to get a guy like him to get over the hump and realize that the people that he's supporting are importing all of the stuff that he hates?
He's a guy who's intellectually honest, who can be a little naive sometimes, in that I remember he had Adam Schiff on his show maybe a year ago. He did the one-on-one interview with him, and he said, and this is kind of him being intellectually honest and naive at the same time. He's like, look, Adam, you come on my show, you go on CNN, you go on Anderson Cooper, you know what I mean? What you really need to do is go on Hannity or go on Tucker and straighten those people out. You know what I mean? You're preaching to the choir on Joy Reid's show. Go on Hannity. I wish that guy would put you on his show so you could go over there. And Adam Schiff, because he's a coward, sort of mumbled under his breath, I've been invited a few times. And then Bill Maher, who's naive, was like, well, then why not go? Because he'd get his ass handed to him because he's a liar. And they would have facts and he would be destroyed. Yeah, okay, go talk to Ben Shapiro. Go talk to Dennis Prager. Hey, go talk to those guys. They never talk to those guys because they get destroyed. Or Gavin Newsom, come on back for round 2. Come on back, pussy. Let's have it out. Bring a notepad. I won't write anything down. How about it? Come on back. He won't come back because he'll be destroyed. So Maher's a little naive, like, hey, go on Hannity and go coach him up. And so that's kind of the naive part. The other part of him that's sort of honest and hopeful is, yeah, you got a message to spread. Why do you keep going to the people that are already converted? Go outside. I said the same thing about Fauci the whole time. These unwashed Walmart shopping, gun-toting, Hannity watching people. They're not getting the vaccine. They're not getting the message. We got to get to those people. Well, don't do it on Joy Reid's show, Fauci. Go on Hannity and straighten everyone out. But you won't, because you're a coward, and you know there'd be pushback, and they'd ask questions, and you couldn't answer those questions. So you won't. But it's insane for someone like Fauci, who's trying to spread the message to the right, who won't go on shows of the right. That's an interesting conceit. And also that this bullshit where people are like, well, he wouldn't be treated fairly. What do you mean treated fairly? Gavin Newsom can come into my studio and say whatever the fuck Gavin Newsom wants. I'm allowed to push back. He then is allowed to correct me. What do you mean treated fairly? I love that notion. Like, he knows he's not going to be treated fairly. No, he's not. He's going to be treated like a guest, and there's going to be a debate. Now go ahead and bring all your facts and beat up Tucker with your information.
It's funny because I get that too. They'll say, okay, well, you wouldn't treat them fairly. And it's like, for all these people that I make fun of all the time, I've never treated a guest poorly once. I have never treated any guest any differently than any other guest. There are people who maybe I agree with more, but I treat these people all the same. And I would treat any of these people with respect, but I would ask hopefully the right questions along the way. But you're right, that their stuff is so thin that they know you can kind of just poke right through it. So they'd rather call us Nazis, Adam.
Yeah, so Maher, who I know well, and who's a good guy, is his basic conceit, and I think it's the same with many Democrats and many people in California for sure, which is, look, there's too much regulation, there's too much red tape, housing is too expensive, taxes are too high, and wildfires and water shortages and the schools suck. Fine. But would you really want a racist running the state?
Like, that's all at the end. You really think that's he really believes it? I think you're probably right.
That's basically how it comes. That's just what it comes down to. And then the people that have a bunch of money and send their kids to private school go, yeah, you know what? I don't care that there's traffic, and I don't care that the grid is broken, and I don't care that we're running out of water. I just would not want some homophobic bigot running the state or as the president or whatever. And they go, so it's still better. And, maybe the answer is, yeah, if that were true, I mean, if
Right.
Larry Elder was the actual black face of white supremacy or something, or Dennis Prager was a white supremacist, then I would tend to agree. I'd still be a little more pragmatic and probably go, well, I'm white, so what do I got to worry about? But yeah, I would go, yeah, I know people that are gay or black or something. Yeah, I would not want to vote for the Hitlerian, Stalin-esque dictator or whatever. But they're not intellectually honest enough to go, what do you mean he's a racist? Like, where's that coming from? Oh, the LA Times said he was.
Right.
Oh, okay. But don't they call everyone a racist? As you said, and I quote you all the time, how could it be that everyone who disagrees with our side when you're on the left is a racist? How's that mathematically possible? That's our argument? Hey, I want to talk about water.
Just stop working for me.
I want to build a desalination plant in Redondo Beach. Oh, because you're racist? Is everything race? I mean, you just disagree with everything? It's not race. I like fracking and cheap oil. Oh, okay. I get it, homophobe. I get it.
Yeah, transphobe. Carolla, I'm going to save my most important question for our locals community, for the subscribers, because I'm a greedy capitalist, a.k.a. racist. We're going to do that in just a second. Is there anything else you want the good people to know about the book, which we're going to link to down below because we're a professional program?
It's a very funny book. Go to Amazon, read the reviews. If you like what you read, go get it, and you will laugh. And, in a world where there's a lot of problems and people are pretty serious, having a laugh is probably going to be good for your soul.
Adam Carolla, good luck in California, my friend.
Thank you.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about comedy instead of the nonstop yelling you get everywhere else, check out our comedy playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.